Welcome to our commission work session on this 16th day of December, Monday. It's 1 o'clock. The first item on our public meeting, and this is a public meeting, not a public hearing, but it's a discussion and or action for the approval of the minutes for the work session held on the 9th of December.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved. And the next item is for discussion on the final budget adjustments for the 2024 calendar year. We have Mr. Park and Miss Ebert here, not Mr. Hatch, but we have Mr. Crockett here. Mr. Park, will you lead? Or Miss Ebert, will you lead?
I'm gonna have her talk about the 2024, and then I'm gonna throw in a couple things about 2025's budget, both of which are on the agenda for tomorrow.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so on the screen, you'll see the final budget adjustments for 2024. A couple of these you've already signed, but there's 4 of them that I have in my hand that you haven't seen yet that I've included on this list. And most of them, the top 2 are just additional revenues that will fund additional expenditures and coming from grants. And then the bottom ones are just miscellaneous revenues that will cover most of the expenditures. Do you have any questions on any of those items?
Presidential election services?
So the state reimburses our county elections department for a portion of the cost for the presidential election. And that was just money that wasn't budgeted that the state has sent us.
Only 40?
Only 40.
Well, we received more than 40 in grants, but we received 40 more than what we had originally
I
budgeted.
see. Okay,
And
that makes sense.
we spent a lot of that on additional salaries for the poll workers.
Uh-huh. Very good. Do you know what the fine was? 86%?
I don't have that number as far as turnout on
Turnout.
the elections. I don't know what that number is.
Yeah.
Like it or not, it's gone up since we started to do mail. You know, that's all there is to it. So,
I'll point out the very bottom 2 garage supplies. That's expenses that we incur that eventually get turned into revenue. So even though it may cross the year, I'm not worried about that as we're buying parts to have a parts inventory. So
Right.
then we will actually charge those out maybe next year, you know, when we use them. So I'm not worried about that. And then the risk insurance, it's just that the cost of USIP insurance was a little bit higher than what we had originally budgeted for by the time all is said and done. That is a risk management fund will eventually get billed into to all the other departments, but it's a year later. So we'll make up the difference. So all of this, in the end, we'll recover.
can't you do something about that? You're on the board.
Yeah, we need to get the sheriff's department to quit crashing cars and we'd be a lot better. Yeah.
Their insurance went up a lot cheaper than my insurance went up. My personal insurance went up a whole lot.
You
this
know,
last
did
year.
it?
Yeah.
It's so interesting, but car liability is by far our biggest expense.
It is, yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I do have these that
Cars
are
are more-
included in those figures above. I need 2 of you to sign each of those,
Oh,
if that's
2 of us to sign each of these.
correct.
4 different ones.
4 different ones. That's. You know, I told, I should tell Shelley, if she just give me a signature stamp for all 3 of you, we can make this a lot easier.
Wow, that would speed things up.
That would speed things up, but we like to be
you.
transparent, so.
Yeah, Bert.
Sharon. And then this item will be presented in the commission meeting tomorrow as well and a public hearing.
Perfect.
Okay.
We don't have a morning meeting, right? It is.
It is a
it
morning
is
meeting.
It's
So
at
this
10
is a
o'clock.
regular public hearing for regular budget changes, so we don't do those at night.
I thought that, yeah, okay, I was thinking the same thing that Commissioner Bolos was thinking, but it is on our calendar tomorrow. We do have a CRA meeting tomorrow at 9:45,
Correct.
so just be aware of that.
And we're taking bets to see if that'll be done in 15 minutes or not.
Why?
It has to be,
Okay,
doesn't it?
I don't know that it has to be. I mean, if we start a commission meeting a few minutes late, I don't know.
Why wouldn't it be?
I
I think you can start it late. You
Has
just
public
can't
hearing?
start it early.
Is it a public hearing?
believe it's a public hearing.
Well, you're gonna have to get out your little buzzer.
All right, then.
Not that we haven't heard it, we heard it last
We
week.
probably could win some money.
I think I'm gonna win some money here.
I'll practice with the clock.
Okay,
Excuse me, just a quick.
sure, go
second.
ahead.
Go ahead, Sharon, if you would.
I don't know where we left off.
So that was the 2024
Okay,
budget, which not much controversy to that. The 2025, I'm hoping there's not much controversy to it, but I can go through it with just the two of you if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'll make this a little bit bigger. So these are adjustments from the tentative to the final. You've seen most of these, but there's a couple that you haven't. So these first few are just, we go through and we proof the budget. We want to make sure that we're doing everything right. We noticed that the health department the county fee to the health department was not correct. It was $16,000 too low. So I reached out to the health department, told them, hey, we're charging you $16,000 more for admin fees. Basically, it's the cost of HR, it's the cost of IT, it's that stuff that's just pushed out through our cost allocation. So they were fine with that. We had double counted a couple of expenses, so 16,000 of double counted expenses, so we fixed that. Animal shelter and CSI revenues, we needed to adjust those, but we have to wait till the budget's essentially done on the expenditure side to know what formula we need to plug into the formula to calculate to put on the revenue side. So those are just those regular adjustments you normally see. Property management, we had budgeted $6,000 of increase for the travel and training, 3,000 one-time, 3,000 ongoing. We put the ongoing in there, but the one-time didn't get picked up, so that's in there. Paramedic services, now this is, we put out to bid the physician contract. Came back with only one bid, $20,000 higher than what we've been paying previously. So previously, we've been paying $55,000. This one was for $75,000. You're familiar with Dr. I don't know if I'm supposed to say his name because we haven't awarded the contract yet, but anyway, he was the same person.
Same person. as
Same provider. He was the only one that turned in a bid.
Okay.
He's very qualified. I talked to paramedic, to Eli and to Jason. Everybody really likes him, thinks he does a great service. He hasn't had an increase in more than 5 years. And so they don't see this increase as unreasonable, but that was not included in the tentative budget. So, I'm presenting that here, to see if you're okay with us adding that to the final budget. I don't know.
This is just for his fee.
Just for his fee, yeah.
Okay.
He's having a hard time attracting an assistant physician. With what we're paying him, he then has to turn around and pay some other people. He can't attract anybody, so he's needing to increase to cover that.
Gotcha.
And then
Hey.
so,
Hold on.
sorry, go ahead.
It says share the sparkle. Oh,
It says sparkle.
I've never been sparkled, Sparky. I've always been Sparky.
Yeah, I don't know
Sparky,
where you get-
Sparkle.
okay,
What's the
sorry.
sparkle?
Okay,
Sorry.
Commissioner, we were just talking about various minor corrections, some administrative adjustments. Recalculating the revenues based off of final expenses, and then paramedics, we were just talking about the contract. Came in $20,000 more than we were originally budgeting for. It's for a 5-year contract for the physician's advisor. And I was just explaining that he's unable to hire an assistant because he doesn't have enough money in his contract, and so he's asking for an increase. He hasn't had an increase in 5 years. He was the only one that responded, so I don't know what other choice we have. But that would be an additional $20,000 in the paramedic budget for the physician's contract. So Commissioner, since this,
Okay.
so I don't know if you have any other questions on that one. We go through, we refresh the payroll data, we say, okay, we had one person drop their health insurance, we had another person go from two-party to family. We
Or
plug
from
in,
family to two
or from
party.
family to two-party, we had 2 people quit at this high rate and we hired them back at this lower rate. We plug in all those changes across the board, we're about $30,000 savings. Which we've saved a little bit more than that in prior years, but still, I'll take it. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, better
Better than
than-
having to pay more,
Is that all benefits or some of that wage
both.
combination?
Yeah,
Most of it's benefits.
Is it? Yeah.
yeah,
The tentative budget, we figure using the 2024 rates. And then for the final budget, we have the open enrollment information for 2025. And so there's some big swings both ways, on benefits, for the 2025 that people have changed. And so that's probably the biggest change is the benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to know.
people went from family to dropped insurance, waived their insurance. We had other people, just change. And that's really what most of them are. so those are the things you haven't seen, and then just other things that I just wanted to keep on here so that I can tie the tentative budget totals to the final budget total, so you can see that everything jives. We had funded the 12th Street, 3500 West project, some additional phone expenditures. Out of Prop one. We had funded some additional OECC expenditures, we had adjusted the roads, so we're not gonna buy those 2 new trucks, we left one of the payments in there in case they need to lease a truck in the short run. And then we have these internal adjustments, that basically net to zero. As we were just correcting and reallocating things, and these are tourism fund transfers that updated that they net to zero, just as we swap back and forth.
Okay,
So, unless you have any questions, this will be presented tomorrow. I don't know why my mouse is not working. This will be presented tomorrow for your final approval. The only feedback I heard from the public hearing was on the animal shelter. I believe commissioners, you were copied on that email as well. That was a citizen asking for us to increase the amount of funding to the animal shelter. I know we continue to work with and look at the animal shelter. And we have a couple of different options as to how we want to move forward, but as of this moment, we don't have any proposals to increase the animal shelter budget at this time. We'd want to work with the different cities, get them on board first. We're already rolling out a fairly large change this year, so I think, that was the only feedback I heard personally, and the communication I got. 3 other things I just wanted to talk about. Commissioner Harvey had asked me to reach out to the state, fire warden. They had showed their cost share going up quite significantly from what it was to. I reached out to them. I reached out to Weber Fire District. Weber Fire District has always covered those costs on our behalf in an in-kind match, because they do enough work to pay for that requirement. And I asked him, okay, well, with these new updated numbers, because we went from like 50,000 to 180,000. I said, well, do you do that? And he's like, we actually do more than that. So there's gonna be no additional cash contributions required from the county.
from the county, but they came in with a pretty good ask, you know? But
Yeah.
But the fire district's gonna cover that.
Yeah, the fire district's already covering it.
Okay,
Um,
does that mean the new vehicle too, they'll cover that? Cause we talked about, instead of surplusing a vehicle, let them take it, taking one out of the.
we talked about that. Jason, I did work with Jason. He did reach out to them, and then the vehicles that we had to offer, didn't meet their needs or were older than the vehicles they already had. And so in the end, we didn't end up giving them any of those surplus. I can find out more details from Jason, but I did follow up with him, and he said in the end, we decided not to move forward with it.
Okay, so, okay, I'll follow up with Jason on that. I'll get asked about that.
A lot of the
It's not
trucks,
like we were gonna buy him a brand new one.
yeah, but the trucks that we have that we were gonna give him were older than the ones they had currently,
Right.
so why trade down?
Yeah.
2 other questions that I have for you, just to clarify. So the animal shelter, since they are on a fiscal year with the cities and their billings, we had plugged in to add those new positions in the fiscal year, July 1. If we add them, January 1, so then we're going to have to cover 6 months, or we're going to have to lend the animal shelter 6 months worth of salaries and wages. Yes, eventually in the long run, we'll get it back, but our fund balance is pretty low, so we may end up going either negative or close to negative. If you're okay with that, we can do that. I mean, in the long run, eventually, in the end of time, we'll catch up. But we could be short in the next 6 months, because we're essentially spending money that we don't have and won't get collected.
Right.
So if you're okay with that, when it's the general fund, we don't really care because we have enough cash. We don't worry about the cash flow, but on these enterprise funds, we do.
Will we be able to recover that? I know we will eventually, but when the cities get their first bill for 2025 for July, will we be able to recoup that from the first 6 months?
No,
So that, unless we make just a one-time adjustment on the contract, which we haven't sent those contracts out. Those contract amounts out, but there's a formula that we use that's based on our budget year and carried over to their fiscal year. And so unless we make a one-time adjustment, like we're kind of doing with CSI, I mean, I guess that we'd still run into the issue of being short for the first 6 months, but
the cities, I mean, we would have to tell them, we'd have to adjust the way that we do it and get them on board, because they're all expecting this increase to start in July. And so if we were to say, here's not only is the increase that we told you were gonna see in July, but I'm also gonna add a supplemental one-time billing on top of that, we may have some pushback. We've always billed 6 months behind the fact, so we'll
Yep.
eventually collect it, you know, in 2026, we'll be collecting the last 2 quarters of what we're
Right.
spending in 2025. So as long as you're okay with that, normally we don't care, but just we're so short on cash in this
Mhm.
fund that if it goes negative, I'll just have the general fund lend cash to the animal shelter.
May I?
Please.
First of all, I apologize because I sent Chad your way. to
No,
get
that's
that
okay.
going,
We explained this to him.
Cause
He
I
came over.
forgot about.
No, yeah,
this.
he came and sat in my office and
So-
I explained it and he understood it.
Yeah. I
We
should've
told him we
remembered
were
that,
coming
though.
to present to you and talk about it.
I should remember that. So this is where I am, if you don't mind. We got the cities on board with 2 new positions and some part-time positions for cleaning. Because the shelter's in such bad shape right now,
That's what I remembered.
operationally.
Yeah.
We didn't tell them it would start in January, but I would like to. I would like to find a way to bill them for that. And I don't know what that entails. Does that have to mean contacting them between now and our meeting tomorrow?
Well, I
To
mean,
let them
you
know
can
that-
approve it in the budget and then we can tell the cities, we're just going to add another fee on top of
One
what we already
time.
told you one time. The county doesn't, I mean, the enterprise fund needs the cash. The
I know
county
that.
doesn't need the cash, right?
Right.
The county's got plenty of
Right.
cash. We just collected all of our property taxes. We're good.
Right,
So if you wanted, we could either, so the two choices are go out to the cities and say, pay me more money now in July.
mhm,
Or we'll let the cash or the county lend the animal shelter cash. As long as it's paid back by the end of the year, we won't.
and it will have to be for that first 6 months anyway, right? Because we don't have it in our budget.
True.
So what I'm asking you guys, if you would consider allowing him to hire those positions in January, whatever it takes on the financial end, going back to the cities on whatever that timeline looks like, I would like to see that implemented in January, or.
I think absolutely.
I don't think we're gonna see the changes we need to see.
No argument for me.
Okay.
And again, if you
We're
could do
hemorrhaging.
a supplemental billing, but I mean, we have to wait a year. I'm assuming we probably can't charge them interest.
No, we wouldn't charge them
So-
interest. Yeah.
Okay, but anyway,
Yeah, okay. we'll
either
do
way,
that.
So yeah, I don't know what that looks like on your end. I don't know.
We'll look to see, I mean. We could I mean, we've already faced some pushback from them and we need to continue to work with them, so I wanna keep them, the cities as happy with this as we can, so if we need
For
flexible
sure.
payment terms, as long as we get the money in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you flex the terms out, even if we kind of make the contract as such that, hey, look, we're gonna recoup it in a year, 2, 3, whatever like
whatever.
that.
As long as you're okay with a 1.5 year time frame to recoup it, then we'll be fine.
I'm good.
I'm okay with that. I just would like, the issues that they're having are because of not even short staffing. It's like people calling in sick and people not showing up. And I think the new positions will go a long way in improving the culture so that doesn't happen as much, if that makes sense. I just had my
Absolutely.
first meeting with Chad today. I learned a lot. And I just think it would go a long way.
Great.
yeah, I'm good with
I
that.
think you got a unanimous, so
Okay.
let's go ahead and move forward.
And I'm sorry again about that. We had that conversation. I
Yeah,
I
no, I
forgot
just wanted to
that.
clarify to make sure that we're.
forgot that when I'm like, tell her to get that going.
You're like, we will, as soon as July hits.
I don't think it's worth bringing up the supplemental billing just because if you have 2 or 3 cities, I think you just post it out. We'll
Just
get
spread
paid
it.
back.
And
I-
prorate it out on the
Yeah,
we'll just-
18
we'll make
months or
it. Okay.
something.
I don't think it's worth the fight, I guess is what.
Okay.
I think
I'm
you-
with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last one, medical design, or the design for the medical and mental health wing. So commissioners, in the 2025 budget, you approved $1 million to go towards the design to come up with the next level of design for the.
This is
medical-
out at the sheriff's.
This is out at the sheriff's complex. So there was a contract that came through the contract portal for $1.8 million, not $1 million.
Hmm.
And so it's out there. I told them that I would talk to you first. We have about $500,000. You remember, we appropriated some money last year to do the big design of the Justice
Mhm.
Center type thing. We have about $500,000 left from there. We could take that with this and say, okay, well, you have $1.5 million, or you could give them the full $1.8 million. The question in my mind is, it's not so much the design, it's how much are we willing to spend for the project? And if it's $30 million and we say, look, this 1.8 comes off the $30 million or $30.8 million, or whatever the number was. I don't have any issues with that. We can cash flow that. Cause the design is, I mean, they're usually a percentage of the contract. So I'm to tell him it's $1 million for design, they'd have to stop the design a portion of the way through. And what we really want to do is get to a spot where we can bid it out and see what it's really gonna cost us. So my question to you would be what, if we do that, we would have to advance some funds from capital projects, which we could afford to do, and as long as we're not adding more money to the total of the cost of the building, to me, whether we spend it in 2025 or 2026 for design, I'd rather have the design numbers sooner than later to know whether it's a $30 million project or if with cost escalations, it's a $40 million project and we either have to pare down the scope or find more money. So that contract is coming through, it's pending my approval because we don't have any budget for it right now, so I gotta get budget for it to approve it before we go to you guys for approval in commission meeting.
Let's have a little discussion on that, Commissioner Bolos.
The 1 million that we approved for the budget, was that supposed to be part of the 30 that we were?
It was part of the full project, yeah.
Total
Okay,
cost.
then I'm thinking that whatever they wanna spend on design comes out of that total cost.
Well, I agree with that. The problem I have is we know how this works. And you put it design, it comes back at 35 million. And, you know, we're the bad guys if we don't approve. So I guess I'm hesitant to approve this. Because there's no way we can hold the design. I mean, and I know the architects. They wanna try to get as much bang for the buck. The higher the contract, the more they make. So there's an incentive for them to increase. Front load that whole thing on the price. There's no way for us to control it. So. I guess unless there is a foolproof way. That is part of that contract that we say, we don't want. A contract, we don't want a design that exceeds the 30 million. And by the way, if it's 1.5 or 1.8, that comes off, so now you're at 28 million. Then. I just don't see, and.
How do you ensure that?
Well, that's why I'm asking. I don't think you do. That's my problem. That's why I don't like to approve this, not knowing where we go forward. That's exactly my problem.
Here's the thing, we got 30 million. If he wants to spend 20 million in design, doesn't matter. You take this, less the 30 million, less the design, equals your balance. Costs keep going up, that's what you just said. We're all on the same page, we don't have any more money.
But we know what happens when it comes back at 35 million.
Then
Well,
you
just,
tell the architect that you need an adjustment.
So if I may, commissioners, the attachment shows $30.8 million for this project, and I do remember that from the last time, 30.8, we talked about that a little while ago. If we want to control the costs, I think we need to have someone who's an engineer or a construction manager do this. I mean, if you were to ask me to do this, I'm an accountant, I'm not a cost manager. The sheriff's office, they're full of law enforcement officers, very good law enforcement officers, but they're not construction managers.
no,
So if we want to control the costs, I think we need to have
For sure.
whoever is over this project and actually has authority over the project to be someone in operations, someone outside of the sheriff's office, not because we don't trust the sheriff's office, but because you don't put it in accounting because I don't have the skill set. You don't put it in the sheriff's office, they don't have the skill set. We put it somewhere with a Scott Mendoza or Scott Mendoza-like person. And that person is the one that says, hey, look, the project cost is at $30.8 million minus the design means now we're down to $29 million minus your 10% contingency means now we're down to $27 million. I need a building that's going to cost $27 million, minus your, and can hold them to that and say, okay, well, if the costs are gonna go up, we need to reduce the scope of what we're doing, or maybe it's a phase 1 and phase 2, maybe we don't finish
Right.
the second floor portion. You know what I mean? Until we have more money, so.
you gotta have somebody like a Mendoza who
Mhm.
now, and he probably has a little more time now that we're
CJC.
getting through the CJC. That, again, the sheriff, bless their heart, they're gonna want everything, including the Christmas ornaments and all the decorations. Mendoza's gonna say, look, here's the cost, here's what our price point is, you gotta fit it within here. So I think the only way I'm a yes vote is if it goes through Mendoza or somebody in operations.
I would like to see that too. I have a question, Scott, on his 30.8. Is that additional 0.8 that we're looking at right now buried in that estimate somewhere?
Let me pull up
Cause we were talking 30 for so long and now it's 30.8, and then this is 0.8 above what we budgeted.
Let me come out here and just,
That might be a question for Julie, I don't know, it just seems like that's.
I
odd that
don't
it's the
have
Same
a
number.
lot of transparency on it, and that's part of my problem, is I don't, so let's pull up the actual attachments. I believe it was this one. Okay. That's the change order, and then.
Who signed that document? Scott, go back there.
So this is the original, whoops,
Okay.
not sure what's going on there. Make it a little bigger. So this was the original contract that we signed to design the Justice Center. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Let me try.
Hit that second page.
Yeah,
What did we pay for that?
well, we had budgeted, I think 1.5-ish million dollars. I can go back and verify. So I have this bar, I have to keep moving out of my way so I can see the screen.
Kevin Miller?
Kevin Miller is,
Okay, thank you.
so we had originally, okay, this is increasing that contract to 1.7 to design the new center. So basically, we, procurement went through and said, well, they've already started. It makes sense to continue to go with them. They did a sole source to justify using them to continue to design since they've already designed a portion of it. But, what I wanted to show you was this piece down here, which is these costs of 30.8. And what I don't know is, does that include the design? Because it says total project cost, construction, soft FF&E, transition and everything, cost per square foot. So is that 30.8 or is it 30.8 plus 1.8 for design? And those are questions that I don't know.
I think it's 30.8 plus 1.8.
Which would make sense to me because.
No,
the
that's
way-
what it says.
That's what I'm saying. That's what it makes sense to me is what it's saying because of the construction cost per square foot. So
Mhm.
I think that's why we need somebody that does this. Whether it's Scott Mendoza or somebody like Scott Mendoza or whoever, Scott Mendoza will not like me if I say his name, but someone in Sean's group. To manage this, because even if we have to hire somebody temporarily, you pay somebody $150,000 salary.
Save you millions.
And it saves you $1.8 million. That's well worth the investment.
Mhm.
Well, I wonder why we shouldn't look at a design build format rather than this design format and then go out. I mean, that's what the state's gone to.
Does that make it easier for them to control the scope?
Yeah, because you're doing one contract, you're doing the design. And part of that design, the contract is to build, so that's, you say, how do you get the 28 million or 30 million set? You do that and say, here's the 30 million, we're gonna give you a contract to build and design. And 30 million, whatever you take for design then has to come out of that.
Yeah.
So, all the pretty heavy contractors, R&O and Big D, they're all, Wadman, they're all going to design build. I think we're missing the boat by not looking at that model.
We talked to Gary in engineering about this a little bit, and he went through the different options of the design build versus
Yeah.
design and procure. This option, while it is a little more expensive, gives you more control because now you got build documents, you go out and you bid those documents, somebody comes back and they say, well, actually, this is gonna be $40 million now with the cost of X, Y, and Z. When you're in your design build, you don't have that, you don't know those costs up front, so there's more risk. That's at least how he explained it to me, so.
No, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with that, but a lot of the work has to come on that front end and trust the people you're working with, which is, okay, what is it per square foot? I just don't like these surprises at the end.
Mhm.
Well, I like them at Christmas, but I don't like them at the end.
Anyway,
I mean, I look at this and I'm not a cost estimator or anything like that, but I see those costs as $640 a square foot. And I
Yeah.
remember the library's cost projections at around $600 a square foot. And a library is not a heart and space.
no,
So I don't know if the library's estimates were too high or, I have nightmares a little bit about the state's jail that almost doubled its budget.
Yeah.
And the soil conditions out there, we know from the training facility are not good, and so I bet we're gonna be, well, we shouldn't be surprised when we open up the soil and find there's a lot of remediation work that needs to be
No,
done.
well, we know that for a fact.
Yeah,
We know we've got contamination out there. This just scares the heck out of me.
so the question I have, is if we want to, I just wanted to have that discussion with you. Right now, there's $1 million in the budget. I can't approve the $1 million contract because there's not enough money unless you give me authorization to advance more money to that project. And advances, what I would do is, okay, here's our total estimated cost. I'm gonna advance a little bit more in year one instead of year two. But I guess I'll defer to you guys. What's your pleasure? What would you like me to do?
Commissioners?
I don't know, I don't know what the design build looks like. It sounds like a good option. But you do make a good point about having a plan from the beginning, but I really feel strongly about giving the sheriff's office what we said we would give them. So you know, that's what they knew they had to work with, so
30.8, that sounds like.
I don't know if the point A got lost in
we
translation.
never heard the 0.8. We
No.
said 30 million. and-
Say, yeah, where'd the point A
and
come
we-
from?
we
I
had our
remember it.
budget.
I remember from this option before.
Yeah.
But that was part of the Justice Center bond, so I don't know. I mean, I remember a 30.8, but I also remember a 30. I don't know if it just got
I just
rounded.
think 30 was said over and over again during their budget hearings.
That's what I recall.
I would like to see them spend 30 and if it has to be scaled down or if it has to leave part of it unfinished for a future time, whatever, I don't know. I don't. 30 was the conversation I remember. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we kind of need to make a decision, because we're gonna be hearing it tomorrow. 30,
30 total.
and the 1.8 comes out of the 30.
I'm probably okay with that, but what concerns me again is that once you go to design, you know, where's the 30 million gonna come from? Or let's say the additional 28.2, where's that coming from?
Have to come from capital projects.
We don't have, you know,
We have that money in capital projects. We were saving, we have more money in capital. We have money in capital projects, but we have more projects
right,
on the table than we have money. So if this project and the parking structure project go through and the parking structure project costs us less or something we can get back, then we can afford this. It's just, that also means now we can't afford to renovate Golden Spike. It means we can't afford to do different things.
I guess that's my concern right now, is that we are not at a place where we can say for sure that the parking terrace will either be above or below that amount that
Mhm.
gives us the opportunity to say, yeah, we'll have the 28.2 million.
Which is why we only appropriated $1 million instead of
Yeah.
the 30 in capital projects, to try to get a better idea of what those costs
But-
actually would be, so you guys can make that decision. If we wanna say, okay, well, it's $1.8 million now, go out and get it designed and bid, yeah, maybe it's a little more expensive in the long run, but now you have an option to say, no, let's scale it back. If we do the design build, I think we lose that flexibility, right? Because we just say, we're gonna spend 30 million, which that's fine too. If that's what we wanna do and just say it's 30 and that's it. We'll have to work on the parking structure. If their demand for cash is a little bit higher or low, we'll have to figure that out, but I don't know what it is, so.
All right, let's get it. I'm okay with the 30 million total. Take the 1.8 out of that. And make it very clear that the 30 million minus the 1.8 is where that project has to come in.
28.2 is left.
So,
There you go.
So if that's the case, commissioners, then what I would do is instead of appropriating $1 million or $1.8 million, I would appropriate $30 million in capital projects. And put it in the capital project account that rolls over year after year, and they would just spend that down. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I'm okay with that, but, and I can have a conversation too with the sheriff, but it's 30 million.
but what if, you know, what if that comes back again? So that's in the money and so he now has 28 million sitting there and it comes back at 35 million. Okay, just take another 5 million, commissioners, and put it in that pot.
That would be the conversation
Which-
likely, yeah.
Well, that's
I-
when you tell the designers, this is what we have to spend. Right?
I'm more comfortable just doing the 1.8 now, see what design comes back before you start transferring at it.
Okay,
And that,
okay, I'm okay with that, but we need to make it clear that then if we decide to move forward, that 1.8 was part of the three, of
Oh.
the 30.
to me, that's the
And
key.
you're going a more conservative route, but I think we're all on board with the same
Yeah,
thing.
I'm just saying, I don't want the sheriff, if he knows he's got 28 million in there, it's gonna be very easy to come back, well, we're just 5 million off, what's 5 million? Give it to us.
Oh,
Right, we give him the 1.8, we'll see what the design comes back,
sorry.
and by then we'll have an opportunity to know where we are with the parking tenants, right?
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
So I'll adjust it from 1 million to $1.8 million. And then that gives us some time to figure out
Yeah.
who's gonna administer this contract.
right,
I think that's, and I don't know what Sean's capacity is. I don't want to speak for his office. I know the CJC building's coming off. I know the parking structure's coming on.
yeah.
So I don't know what their workload's gonna be. I just think that even if we have to hire somebody temporarily, we need somebody who does this.
For sure.
Even if we have to go outside to get somebody to manage that design,
Sure.
yeah. I think that's critical.
Yeah. Okay.
We
so-
asked the clerk auditor to do clerk auditing. We asked the assessor to do assessing. We asked the sheriff to do law enforcement or. We asked the, yeah,
Well, I think at the library, when they did all their renovations, they brought in Kevin from, I forget where he came from, but he came from a construction firm.
Yeah,
And that's what he did for the construction firm, and he worked for us for a couple of years, and then he retired. He knew what he was doing, and that's what we want, is somebody who can look at those change orders and say, actually, no, that's not legit. You know what I mean? You should have covered that some other way. So, okay. That is all I had, commissioners. I guess I would ask, so you're okay with me including that paramedic contract for $20,000 in there?
mhm.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. This will show up on your agenda tomorrow.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
perfect.
Commissioners, let's take another moment and we'll switch out the room again.
So does that mean that you do commissioning?
Yeah.
Checking.
Yeah. Oh, funny.
Fair question.
I was just gonna go over that memo with you,
Oh.
to make sure if there, I
Okay.
didn't miss anything.
I'm tired.
Just so you have everything in President Mortensen, or when you go to the
Mr. Keo?
legislature. I had Sean review it, but I just wanted to make sure you.
Mr. Grover, Mr. Wilkinson, Mr.
Yeah, so
Ebert,
I scheduled a meeting for.
thanks for
10,
taking those
15
bullets the other day, I've heard. Appreciate it.
Which ones? Which one, which time?
Gentlemen. Hey.
Well, Commissioners, this is the discussion regarding the 12th Street Corridor General Plan. Go ahead.
So, Chair, and other members, we would like to visit with you about, you gave us direction to look at doing the 12th Street corridor and using $100,000 to get that in place. I just pumped the brakes a little bit on it when we heard the budget and some of the issues that we have with some of the deficits. And I just wanted to visit with you guys about that. Make sure that we're still on the same page of going forward with that. When we brought the Gibson rezone to you, you said, let's push this one through or review it and hold off on the others until we do this 12th Street corridor study. And as we've looked at the area and through there, we've got a fairly good handle on what's happening along the 12th Street corridor. If we did it, one project at a time in through there. But it would probably require some plan amendments as we did that. And then we wouldn't be using that funding towards that. One project we do have on the horizon that's submitted an application as Fieldstone, right, or Flagship, excuse me, right now. Flagship, we took that to the planning commission. And
Now Flagship is where, just remind me of that.
47,
yeah, and it's on the south side.
southeast.
It's further out west.
Uh-huh, no, I got it,
Yeah.
got it.
South side
West of the
tracks, west
river. We don't have any utilities in that area right now.
It's the one that's south of the tracks and
Mhm.
west of the river.
Yep,
Okay.
basically, it's all that area, and this is that really big development, and this one pretty much complies with the general plan. We took it to a work session with the planning commission. The planning commission gave a thumbs up that it does comply with the general plan, even though it doesn't fully match the map, but it meets the intent of the map, and we visited with legal, and they feel that we're probably not needing a general plan amendment, just a rezone on that. So, where that's such a large portion, the Gibson is a large portion that we're already addressing right now. We just want to make sure that you guys, if that's what you're wanting right now, is us to do the whole 12th Street corridor, we can do it, but I just want to make sure that you guys were good with that after you guys have saw some of the revisions to the municipal fund. So just throwing that out there on the table, and I don't want you to feel like I was going against your direction, but when we saw some of those numbers, I just wanted to visit with you and make sure that you guys were still a green light on that.
Whether we spend the money, what we're talking about, because of those funds, is there's gonna be likely for the unincorporated areas, a tax increase. That's what we're talking about, Gage.
Yeah,
Now, I'd say that's you and me, but you're gonna be in a new city,
that'll be a tax
so
increase.
it'll just be me.
Well, I'll take the tax increase down there, makes more than what I'm gonna get.
So anyway, that's what you were saying, and so all this does is delay that. I think with as much action as we have going on out there, it only makes sense to just continue moving forward.
Okay.
It just may accelerate when we do that tax increase. Cause that's what we're talking about. I mean, there's no other way to do it.
Right,
And it would be, we're gonna have a new number based on the numbers that come back to us from the new city in the valley. So this would just, Hunter won't modify it a lot. I mean, it's 10 cents a
Right.
month,
right,
a household or something.
Yeah.
Or $1 a year or something. So. But I think the area, it's big enough out there that I do not want to do that, but it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And so all we're doing is delaying the inevitability of what is certain. And so I don't have any problem with continuing to move forward.
Feel the same way.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I think we need to not put this on the front burner though, until there's some answers we need, like infrastructure out there. And little thing called the Legacy Highway North.
Yeah.
That will have a major factor on what it tells us out there.
Mhm.
So I'm hesitant about moving forward with some type of study or amendments. And then find out that, look, you can't get sewer here, you can't get water here, Legacy's going a mile west. To me, I think we have to have those answers. Not that I'm opposed to that, but I think there's two components out there we need, legacy and infrastructure.
Yeah.
And until you have those questions at least, and I'm not saying finalized, but you got a $200 million project starting here next year with Weber Basin, Central Weber, LMSA's coming into play. I would be hesitant to go out and spend a bunch of money and then find out, well, we're 2 blocks off for the sewer, so now we've got to come back in and revise it, or Legacy's going here, now you can. So that's my thoughts. I'm not opposed to it, but I hate spending $100,000 and then have to come back and spend another $100,000 because we missed the ball.
Yeah, but if don't we know about where Legacy's coming through?
We
Not
got a mile.
necessarily. We
Maybe 2
think
miles.
we
Once or twice, 2
really
miles, yeah.
feel like we do. but
But if you take a look at what's reality out there on the ground that they bought, we don't.
Yeah.
yeah. And that's where, you know, I have some hesitancy,
So
but
I would say that that's on our legislative agenda this coming session. We can put some major heat on UDOT and the Transportation Committee to give us some answers. So I'm not saying delay it till 10. I'm just saying, give us maybe time through the first quarter to see if we have a little clearer picture of what's happening out there. So, I mean, that's my opinion. And I'm happy going forward, but I just don't want to do this twice.
Mhm.
So where are you again, Sharon? Commissioner?
I'm okay with it.
going right now with it.
Yeah, I mean,
So do you wanna restate what you're saying then?
he wants to delay a little.
Well, I would just like to give it, so, you know, what's your timeline? I guess that's really what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm okay
We-
with it, but I would follow your direction.
We
if you
could
wanna
start
do it.
right now with it, but I'm kind of in the court with Commissioner Frower that it might be best to have those things maybe just a little bit
More resolved.
firmed up.
Mhm.
I'm just
Well,
saying delay the start.
Okay, but
But
what,
with the spend, I'm okay with spend.
yeah, I'm okay with that, yeah, spend too, but. Look, what that means is no matter how much pressure you get from Fieldstone or from Black Pine or whoever it is, they don't get on a commission agenda or a work session. Because we're not doing any spot zoning, and that's what that looks like to me coming in.
There's a different term for it, though.
That,
I don't know what it is.
There's a different what?
Term.
It's not spot zoning, but I understand that you probably know it's not spot zoning.
I think Fieldstone would be a little frustrated.
Flagship.
Flagship, excuse me, because they've
Fieldstone
been
is a developer we're talking to
Yeah,
as well.
but
that has submitted an
flagships
application.
a little further down the road.
Well,
then-
Theirs doesn't require
Yeah,
a
but
change to
they-
the.
Saying that theirs doesn't require the general plan amendment,
Yeah,
then that may not affect them.
Yeah.
would you be okay with accepting a rezone if it complied with the general plan
I would.
out there? Even though we don't have utilities to that area right now?
Well,
I know where you are.
I just had to throw in the utilities at the end.
I'm kind of a hard Eddie on that. And again, once you start giving those promises and you can't deliver, it kind of puts us in a position that how do we backtrack now?
Yeah,
I mean, I just always had, when I did the development, I had water, sewer, everything was in place before I actually
sure,
went to the city council, whoever, and asked for.
but that's
But-
not what, it's
Anyway,
been the experience that we've had coming to us.
yeah,
They're not.
They want the entitlement so they can go get a loan. It's the.
no, it's all about financing, I
Yeah.
get that.
I tell you, Flagship, they wanna do a mechanical treatment facility. They wanna build one and, they've been talking with, Little Mountain a little bit about possibility of
Well-
Little Mountain doing it and others. We have put something together in a draft development agreement for that project that says they have to have sewer, otherwise
Sure.
they don't go forward.
You know, I just don't wanna get too far down the road and then find out that we've got to backtrack.
Yeah.
If we've got development agreements that say, look, nothing gets approved till you have mechanical, till you have your railroad crossings in place, you got water out there, I'm good with that. I just ain't making promises we can't back up.
Yeah.
That's all, that's where I'm
If it's
at.
clearly defined in the development
Yeah.
agreement, what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the very first things they have to do is build that road.
Yeah, so if that's all part of the development agreement, you got no fight for me.
how are we
But-
feeling over this side?
I don't have the same reservations, cause to me, you can't build it without that anyway, so.
Well, that's what you're saying.
I mean, you physically can't do it without that, so. I've never had a problem with the rezone.
No, and you're actually right. I just get a little,
Yeah, I know,
I get a little gun shy.
I know. I know that we don't see it the same, but yeah.
But it doesn't hurt to tie it up in a development agreement.
No, doesn't hurt.
So,
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, I'm just saying, cross your T's twice.
yeah,
I
Yep,
guess is what I'm
absolutely.
saying.
I like that.
Mind if I flatten my gums for a couple seconds? Is that all right?
Flap your gums? Go ahead.
One of the things we've been talking about internally is, you know, what happens with a different budget. We're feeling the stress in the department, you guys know that, of not having two staffers. And we're completely appreciative of the reason why we're not filling those positions. One of the challenges in Western Weaver is that you can't just give the developers the zone. Because once you've given them the zone, they gotta do whatever the zone allows them to do. And we can't ask them, well, we can ask it, but we can't make them, we can't compel them to do above and beyond. And so the way that the general plan out west is set up is working with developers, basically saying, you get the zone as long as we agree. You know, street connectivity and pathway connectivity and underground, the overhead utility lines and, you know, all these little things that we know, park donation, all that. A much more efficient way to govern would be just to change the zone and let the chips fall. That's not what we're doing. One of the reasons why I think you'll find a lot of developers and others looking at Weaver County thinking how helpful we are is because we are taking that personal touch on a development by development basis. But the cost to do that is high, not just in terms of creating the development agreement with the rezone, but later we'll all figure this out the hard way, implementing dozens, if not more than dozens of development agreements in the long run. We're trying to keep things as standardized as we can on those development agreements for the routine rezones. The ones that are kind of no brainers, but the bigger ones, those are almost completely separate development codes in some respects. So as we're moving towards this idea of cost savings, I don't like the idea of rolling up the red carpet for a little while, but I was almost glad to hear that maybe we will be rolling up the red carpet for a minute or two because
Rolling up or rolling
Rolling
out?
it up.
rolling it up,
Okay.
because it will help us kind of get our feet back under us. I mean, we're our heads above water, but you know, our feet's not always on the ground as we're trying to get these things done. Which is fine. I mean, some of us are getting some decent overtime in. And we understand it'll be that for the next year or two. But if you're hoping for some really deep cuts, continuing to do rezones, continuing to follow the Western Weaver general plan might not be the right idea. But if you're okay continuing to find the funds to continue with the way that we're doing things, then, you know, let's keep going. I mean, maybe not taking stabs at the general plan, but keep running rezones through. We can certainly do that.
I know it's just a plan. The general plan is just a plan. But I like the idea of I think one of the big things that's changed for us is we've lost the two big dairies out there. Nobody would have known when we did this. Well, and I'll say it like this too. I know that part of the country was pushed through without a lot of detail just to get the general plan done when we did it.
Yeah.
And that, no fault of yours. But I think that now has come back to bite us in the tail. And so now it's time to put a little more focus on that and, you know, and if you want to take a while to do it, I think I'd still like, for me, I'd like to still fund it and move forward with some town halls or some public meetings out at the elementary and get a little more input. But that's just, you know, instead of doing it, maybe it takes a little bit longer, but I want to be sympathetic to your statement about overtime, Charlie, and the other team down there all year overtime, but I'd like to see this, I'd like to see us address some of those other things that we know now and just say, no, this is it, because it seems to me like you keep bringing these things to us that are, well, we need to modify this or this or this, let's just get it done. Let's just fix it.
Mhm.
And in answer to your question, I don't wanna have to do it twice. Well, we said that 5 years ago, and here we are doing it twice again now in 5 years again, right? It's been 5 years, and so when you experience this type of growth, when you have major property owners making those types of business decisions, we learn a little more. Maybe that's what we do.
We need to anticipate that.
That's where I am.
And maybe when we do the plan, we allow some flexibility with the corridor. And we put language in there that if the corridor is located in this spot, XYZ. If it's located further in a certain direction, XYZ. So maybe the general plan provides some flexibility.
Well, and I know you've got the one developer that keeps bringing back that wants to put 30-acre lots right there where we know whether the corridor's coming through there, but it's right next to the 12th Street. Well, I don't understand it. The argument was made, and was it right up there by 2700 and 2000. Right in between there, they talked about commercial. Well, you and Scott talked about commercial all up and down there. Wouldn't the same argument be made down there? Yet we get we're trying to do 30-acre lots right by the freeway and right by 12th Street. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't seem responsible on our part.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me how I'm wrong here. I'm trying to voice what you guys have taught me. This is kind of this is best practice, is what you want to do.
I would agree with you. Once you get something built on the ground, it's not likely to go away very soon.
Well, you
In
put
fact,
those
I think it's
30-acre
not
houses in,
for
you're
us.
gonna be just like Davis County and tearing them out as soon as the Legacy Highway comes in there.
Yeah.
So why would we approve that? Why would we even hear it? You know, bring it to a work, that's the thing. Because the developer has the right to do it. How many times can they do that?
They have the right to hear no, right?
Yeah, but they can just keep bringing it here, no,
They can
no,
ask.
no.
If it's a rezone, our code says they can't bring it back for a year, but they could annually. They can't bring back the same question
Right.
within a year.
But then, yeah, that $1,000 each time, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so I just went on a little diatribe. What more direction do you need?
That's perfect. We got it.
So what are we doing?
So.
I don't know that I'm clear.
Well, what I'm getting is that we start looking at it, we don't implement anything for a quarter, and then we bring stuff to you in work sessions and provide different options and see where we go.
So you're gonna start working on the general plan again
Mhm.
in the second quarter.
And just for me, if you have applications that comply with the general plan, I'm happy to see those.
Keep bringing it.
I am. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
To Charlie's point though, there will be some level of service that declines, that's just
Yeah.
the fact. Now, that
Because of
doesn't,
personnel.
because of personnel, it doesn't mean that we won't be responsive and that we won't be kind and provide good customer service. We will do all of that, but it will not be the way that it has been because we simply don't have the manpower to do it.
Yeah.
So we just want you to be aware. So if you are getting phone calls or anything like that, you can help people understand the situation that we're in. And then you can refer them to me and then I'll tell them the same thing. But we just don't want that coming back on our staff because they're doing everything they
For
can.
sure,
No.
absolutely.
Okay. Are you okay then?
So, okay,
I think a year or two after the incorporation is finalized, I think we'll be back to the same amount of work.
Yeah.
As we're at now, maybe
Well,
not,
that's 2028, Charlie.
maybe not with the same revenue, but same amount of work.
I don't disagree.
Thanks, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our public administrative meeting.
To go into administrative meeting?
No, just
Okay,
adjourn
Work session,
our work session.
so
Yeah.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Going into administrative.